For nearly 5 decades, one room inside Graceland remained untouched. The attic above Elvis Presley's mansion was sealed, locked, and left alone. Even his closest family stayed away. For years, fans wondered what secrets it might hold, what memories the king of rock and roll had chosen to hide from the world. When the door was finally opened, the discovery was not glittering jumpsuits or golden records, but something far more unsettling. The truth revealed inside shook even those who thought they knew Elvis best. The beginning of Graceland's mysteries. In the spring of 1957, Elvis Presley was just 22 years old when he drove through the gates of the white-columned mansion that would soon become one of the most famous homes in America. The property, called Graceland, cost $12,500 at the time, almost $1 million in today's money. Elvis left the name untouched. To him, the house was perfect just the way it was, a quiet retreat on the edge of Memphis. Very quickly, Graceland became more than a home. It was a stage, a playground, and a reflection of Elvis himself. The land stretched across nearly 14 acres, filled with horses, barns, and life. Among the strangest residents was Scatter, a chimpanzee Elvis dressed in clothes and brought to parties, where the animal was known for pulling women's skirts and stealing drinks. To many, Scatter was an extension of Elvis's wild side, the part of him he could only reveal in private. By 1964, as the Beatles were conquering America, Elvis was retreating into solitude. He created the Meditation Garden, a quiet spot filled with fountains and flowers where he could sit under the Tennessee sky and escape the endless noise of fame. While fans saw him as larger than life, here he was, simply a man seeking peace. Yet Graceland was also a place of extremes. Inside, the jungle room showcased shag carpeting not just on the floor, but on the walls, with furniture that looked transported from an island far away. In the basement, Elvis had a state-of-the-art television setup where he could watch 3 programs at once, a luxury for the 1960s. The racquetball court even held the piano where he played his final songs just hours before his death. But all of this would change on August 16th, 1977. That was the day Elvis Presley died in his upstairs bathroom. From that moment forward, Graceland was no longer simply a home. It became a shrine, a fortress of memory, and a frozen piece of American history, the death and the cover-up. On the morning of August 16, 1977, Graceland was unusually quiet. Elvis Presley, only 42 years old, had grown accustomed to staying up through the night and sleeping during the day. His long-time habits of insomnia and heavy medication left the mansion shrouded in silence. His girlfriend, Ginger Alden, woke up around 2 in the afternoon, but she was not alarmed. Elvis often slept late. Still, something about the stillness of the house was unsettling. At about 2:30 p.m., Ginger went to check on him. The bathroom door upstairs was locked, but when she pushed it open, she was met with a sight she would never forget. Elvis lay on the floor, his pajama bottoms around his ankles, his face already turning blue. She screamed for help. Joe Esposito, his loyal road manager, rushed upstairs and began performing CPR while an ambulance was called. Paramedics arrived quickly, sirens cutting through the Memphis heat, and they sped him to Baptist Memorial Hospital. But by 3:30 p.m., the doctors declared what the world feared most. Elvis Presley was dead. The shock reverberated instantly. Radio stations interrupted their programs, fans broke down in tears, and crowds gathered outside Graceland. Later that same evening, Shelby County's medical examiner, Dr. Jerry Francisco, stood before reporters and told them Elvis had died of cardiac arrhythmia. His heart simply stopped. "Natural causes," he said, closing the matter in just a few words. But for many, the explanation felt hollow. Even in the late 1970s, it was clear Elvis had been in visible decline. Once slim and full of energy, he had gained significant weight, tipping the scales at nearly 260 pounds. On stage, he forgot lyrics, rambled between songs, and sometimes collapsed under his own exhaustion. Fans whispered, insiders knew, but the public was shielded from the full truth. The autopsy painted a darker picture. Elvis's body showed signs of long-term prescription drug abuse, an enlarged heart, a swollen liver, and damage consistent with years of heavy medication. Toxicology results revealed shocking levels of narcotics in his blood, including Dilaudid, Quaaludes, Percodan, Demerol, and codeine. Yet Dr. Francisco had chosen not to mention any of this, raising suspicion that the truth was being hidden. Attention quickly turned to his longtime physician, Dr. George Nicopolis, known as Dr. Nick. In the final 8 months of Elvis's life, Dr. Nick had written nearly 200 prescriptions, over 10,000 pills. The year before, the total had been closer to 19,000. Painkillers, sleeping aids, stimulants. Elvis had them all, legally supplied by the man who claimed to be protecting him. Graceland turns into a fortress. The death of Elvis Presley didn't just shock the world. It turned his beloved home into something more than a mansion. In the days following August 16, 1977, Memphis was overwhelmed. Nearly 100,000 fans poured into the city, filling the streets outside Graceland, desperate to say goodbye to the king of rock and roll. Inside the house, Elvis lay in a white suit with a light blue shirt, his body resting in a casket that would soon be the centerpiece of one of the most widely mourned funerals in American history. On August 18th, 17 white Cadillacs formed a funeral procession that wound through the streets of Memphis. Famous faces like James Brown, Sammy Davis Jr., and Caroline Kennedy were among those in attendance. 9-year-old Lisa Marie Presley stood near her mother, Priscilla, as Vernon Presley, Elvis's father, tried to stay strong for the family. The world saw grief on a scale rarely witnessed before, but even in death, Elvis's story was far from peaceful. Just 2 days later, something unthinkable happened. In the middle of the night, a group of men attempted to break into Elvis's tomb at Forest Hill Cemetery. Their goal was to steal his coffin. The attempt failed, but the message was clear. Not even death could protect the king from intrusion. Vernon Presley, already crushed by the loss of his son, realized something drastic had to be done. Quietly and without public announcement, Vernon arranged for Elvis's body, and his mother Gladys's body, which lay nearby, to be moved in the middle of the night. This time, they were buried inside the meditation garden at Graceland, the peaceful spot Elvis had created years earlier as his sanctuary. It was an intimate space, filled with fountains and flowers, now transformed into a private family cemetery. But with that move came a new philosophy. Graceland could no longer be treated as just a home. It had to be a fortress. Vernon added new alarm systems, hired round-the-clock guards, and most importantly, sealed off parts of the house forever. The second floor where Elvis had died was locked down. His bedroom, the bathroom, and the attic above them were strictly off-limits. The reason given was always the same: privacy, out of respect for the family. When Graceland opened to the public in 1982, 5 years after Elvis's death, millions of fans finally walked through the rooms where he had once lived. They admired the stained glass windows, peeked into the kitchen where he made his famous peanut butter and banana sandwiches, and paused quietly at his grave in the meditation garden. But no matter how far they roamed, one place remained off-limits. The staircase to the second floor was roped off, the attic door locked tight. Even presidents and world leaders were turned away from that part of the house. The mystery only grew. For the next 48 years, fans would wander through the glittering halls of Graceland, staring at gold records and rhinestone jumpsuits, while secretly wondering what secrets lay hidden just above them. Few realized that those secrets were not only physical, but tied to the deeper truth about Elvis's decline and the unresolved questions surrounding his death. rumors, auctions, and the locked attic. As the years passed, Graceland became one of the most visited houses in America, second only to the White House. Millions of fans walked its halls, yet the locked-up stairs only deepened the aura of secrecy. Tour guides always gave the same answer. The upstairs is private, out of respect for the family. That explanation satisfied some, but for others, it only fueled speculation. If there was nothing to hide, why keep it sealed for decades? By the 1980s, conspiracy theories began to take root. Some fans insisted Elvis hadn't really died at all. Witnesses claimed to have seen him at the Memphis airport buying a one-way ticket under the alias John Burroughs, a name Elvis had famously used when traveling. Others swore they saw him flipping burgers in Kalamazoo, Michigan, or pumping gas in Oklahoma. The sightings grew so widespread that tabloids like Weekly World News created a regular column called Elvis Watch to track the supposed appearances. To believers, the locked attic was proof. Maybe Elvis had never left Graceland. The mystery took on new urgency in 2024. Out of nowhere, news broke that Graceland was heading to foreclosure auction. A little-known company, Nosany Investments and Private Lending, claimed that Riley Keough, Elvis's granddaughter and the sole heir after Lisa Marie Presley's death in 2023, had defaulted on a $3.8 million loan. Court documents suggested the company would soon auction off the King's mansion. The shockwaves spread instantly. Fans were horrified at the thought of Elvis's legacy falling into strangers' hands. But Riley Keough fought back. Her lawyers filed an emergency petition, calling the entire case fraudulent. They argued the documents were forged, the signatures fake, and the company itself a shell that had never legally existed. As the court date drew closer, panic spread across Elvis fan communities online. People feared not only for Graceland, but for everything inside it: the archives, the personal belongings, and especially the hidden rooms upstairs. Then, in May 2024, just one day before the scheduled auction, a Tennessee judge halted the sale. He declared Graceland a one-of-a-kind cultural asset and ruled that its loss would cause irreparable harm to the public. Most telling of all, no one from Nosany Investments even appeared in court. The attempt to seize Graceland collapsed instantly, leaving Riley in control. The attic unlocked after 48 years. In January 2025, the silence finally broke. For the first time since August 1977, the attic at Graceland was opened. Riley Keough, now the keeper of the Presley legacy, gave permission for archivists to document what had been locked away for nearly half a century. A small team in white gloves climbed the narrow stairs, carrying with them a brass key that had been in the Presley family since Elvis's death. The air was thick with dust, but the atmosphere was heavier with anticipation. When the lock turned and the door creaked open, the archivists stepped into a space far different from the glitter of Graceland below. It wasn't flashy or theatrical. The attic was plain, wooden, and cool, with blackout curtains over the dormer windows and a small air conditioner that maintenance staff had kept running all these years without ever entering the room. What they found was less a storage space and more a time capsule, carefully arranged by Elvis or those close to him. Dozens of boxes lined the walls, each labeled in Elvis's own handwriting. Some were marked Tupelo 1945, Army Days, Hollywood, Comeback Special, and Vegas. But the most chilling was a box labeled simply After, dated 1977, the year of his death. The archivist knew instantly they were handling something deeply personal. Inside, they found treasures that revealed the private life of the man behind the legend. There was a worn teddy bear named Bear, patched with pieces of fabric sewn by Gladys Presley when Elvis was a child, a reminder of the poverty and hardship his family endured when his father Vernon was briefly jailed in 1938. In another box, a Bible once belonging to Gladys, given to Elvis during his Army service in 1958, was held together with electrical tape. Inside, Elvis had underlined verses, scribbled prayers, and left his final mark just days before his death in August 1977, Psalm 23. There were mementos from Hume's High School, including a leather-bound yearbook full of signatures and notes from classmates encouraging him to keep singing. A leather jacket from Jailhouse Rock had a handwritten note tucked in the pocket. "Wear this when you need to disappear." Next to it were stacks of books on Eastern religion and life after death, revealing a man searching for answers beyond fame. Then came a discovery that froze the room in silence. A confidential doctor's report from 1974 mentioning heart problems and urgent lifestyle changes Elvis never made. Alongside it were reel-to-reel tapes from 1976 labeled practice sessions. On one, archivists listened to a stripped-down recording of Unchained Melody, Elvis's trembling voice carrying a haunting power, as if he were singing directly to his own mortality. What was hidden in Elvis's attic? The further the archivists dug into the attic, the more painful the discoveries became. Among the boxes of clothes, books, and keepsakes, they found a stack of unopened fan letters, still sealed in their envelopes, untouched since the mid-1970s. Some were from soldiers thanking Elvis for lifting their spirits during lonely nights overseas. Others came from families who said his music helped them through grief and hardship. A few were written by young musicians asking for his advice, hoping the king might hear their voices. One letter, postmarked 1976, stood out. It begged him to slow down, to take care of his health, warning that the world needed him alive more than it needed another concert. Elvis never opened it. The letter sat there for decades, a silent reminder of a life spiraling toward tragedy. There were also scraps of paper, napkins, hotel stationery, notebooks, covered in half-written lyrics. Some were drafts of songs fans knew by heart, with lines crossed out and reworked. Others hinted at new directions, blending gospel, blues, and experimental sounds. But these words never left the attic. They remained locked away, like the unfinished thoughts of a man whose career ended too soon. Taken together, the attic wasn't just a storage space. It was a portrait of Elvis Presley that few had ever seen. Not the superstar in rhinestones, but the fragile man searching for answers, clinging to childhood comforts, and quietly confronting his own decline. In many ways, the attic was his final performance, a carefully arranged collection of memories, prayers, and secrets that told the story he never could. Nearly 50 years after his death, Elvis Presley still has the power to shock the world. His attic was not filled with treasures or glory, but with memories that revealed the man behind the legend. Lonely, fragile, and painfully human. Do you think these attic discoveries change how the world should remember Elvis Presley? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and join us next time for more untold stories.